EAFC 24 represents a huge milestone for the franchise and arguably its biggest opportunity since the FIFA freight train began. Mr. Wilson, the EA bigwig, he talks about the FIFA licence being an impediment to their ambitions, but it's like saying I could have played for Spurs if it weren't for my dodgy knee. The only thing ambitious here then is their bloody minded cheek. So put the kettle on and let Reggie spill the beans in today's review. EAFC, or the FIFA games before it, are like your old granddad telling you the same bloody war stories at every family gathering. Every few years, EA gives us a franchise with a fancy new suit, but underneath, it's still the same old bloke telling you about the time he shot a Nazi. And make no mistake here, EAFC is a fantastic game of football. If you haven't played FIFA in a few years, then pick this one up. But on the flip side, you have to wonder if the developers here have some of the easiest jobs in gaming, as it always feels like a lack of effort on their part to get the franchise moving in a bold new direction. So let's dive into the game modes before we kick off on the pitch. First up, for a two-footed Reggie-style tackle, is the Ultimate Team mode. And yes, it's like a never-ending footy-themed casino. They're shoving loot boxes down your throat like Rocco Siffredi himself got a job at EA Sports. And let's not mince our words here. This is straight up gambling. You might hear some folks say, oh, I beat a team of superstars with my ragtag bunch of bronze-rated players. But let's be honest, that's about as likely as spotting Bigfoot down the local boozer, because in the real world, better players mean more goals, and to get those top-tier players, you've got to cough up some of your hard-earned cash, or grind your way through game after game to get rewards to gamble it all away and hope. Now, this ain't like spending a few dollars on a snazzy cosmetic for your character. No, lads, this is a whole different ball game. It's high time the review industry gave these dodgy practices a red card and handed out some proper penalties. I remember when they first came on the scene and the disgust that we all had, but it's been so long now that we have started to accept it as a way of life in gaming. Well, let Reggie remind you all again that you should feel angry and disgusted at this utter nonsense, and because of it, I'll immediately be deducting 3 marks to whatever score I provide come the end of this review. Now then, I've got a point here that's going to ruffle a few feathers, and let's have a little chat about it, because I want to make it crystal clear that the Cockney Gamer, we support women's representation in EAFC, no doubt about it. Frankly, there should be an Ultimate Team mode dedicated to it. But here's the thing. In Ultimate Team, they've gone and mixed up the lads and lasses in the same squad, and I've got to say, it's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works. Look here, I've got Erling Haaland, a robot of a goal-scoring machine who scores for fun and quite rightly is rated a solid 91 out of 100. If you get him in a pack, you'll be creaming your pants until the next World Cup. Now let's talk about Kerr, a top-class female player who's tearing it up at Chelsea and holds the record as Australia's all-time leading scorer. She's the first Aussie to bag a World Cup hat-trick. I've got nothing but respect for her, but how in the name of the football gods is she rated only 1% less than Haaland? She's even rated higher than Sam, Gundogan and even shitty Eric Dyer, the fella who couldn't defend a chip butty. Now let me be crystal clear here. I'm not saying we should boot the female players out of Ultimate Team, not at all, and I'm definitely not one of those gobshites whining about pronouns being in games. No, my point is this: many players love Ultimate Team for its ambition. You start with a bunch of no names, and through wheeling and dealing and hard fought matches you build up your dream team to take on the big boys. But now with this mixing and matching, the realism of the men's game takes a proper hit. You've got female players rated higher than some bona fide legends, and as for the transfer market, I can't even fathom what this is going to do to player prices. You'll have female teams giving a proper thumping to squads filled with Ronaldos, Messis and, dare I say it, Eric Dyers. Now, when controlling a single player in, say, pro clubs and having a mix of genders based on a whole swath of made-up avatars, then no problem, and the game is better for it. But sorry, EA, this ain't my jam when it comes to Ultimate Team. I was already switching off from FUT, and here's just another nail in the coffin for my dream fantasy team. Now let's have a butchers at some of the other modes in this game, and honestly, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Remember the journey from FIFA 17, a cracking little mode that took you from the gutter to the stars. It's had its quirks, but was appreciated for trying something new. Well, that's been chucked out the window, as you know, and instead, we're left with the bog standard player creation mode that's about as exciting as watching Harry Maguire trying to defend. Then there's the manager mode, where you can sign players, run your team, take a few questions from the press and whatnot. But you see, it's like a proper game mode stuck in the past, screaming out for some proper improvements to make it shine like we all know it could. But no, it's like that neglected kid at the orphanage. You want to give it a good hug and promise it better days, but sadly they are left waiting. So what's left? Well, of course we've got pro clubs, and if you've got a few mates to play with, this is the bee's knees of FIFA modes. It's the GOAT, the one that keeps folks coming back for more, but the other game modes, they're like filler to pad things out. Now let's have a butchers at the beautiful game itself, shall we? It plays a solid game, no doubt about it. Feels a tad faster than last year, but that's just the old marketing song and dance that we come used to every year. One season it's all about snappy gameplay, more responsiveness and lightning quick transitions. The next it's all about build-up play, opening up spaces and a more authentic experience. Take for instance this bit about Hypermotion 5, a fancy term they've cooked up to make it sound like players move and look more real than ever before, and I can't deny it. It does look smashing when a game is in full flow. I've said it right from the start. This is one of the top football games that you can get your grubby mitts on right now. I've had a right laugh in my matches, like that time I gave someone a proper 11-1 thumping online and he cried to his little daddy. Goals look spot on too, and them keepers, well, they give you a proper challenge, and I never come across super easy finesse shots. Likewise, defending's not too shabby either, but it ain't all that different, and soon you'll suss out how to get your other players to press and move so that tackles are like that bulldozer as you steam into opposition. But when it comes all together, it's downright glorious. But I'll be honest, I can't call out all the differences between FIFA 23, FIFA 22, FIFA 21 and so on. To me, it either feels a little bit snappier or there's a few more animations thrown in for good measure. I'm sure the hardcore player base will disagree, and I accept that. But for the more casual FIFA player out there, it's very much the same shit as always. Now let's have a butchers at the graphics, shall we? It's slicker, prettier, and well, as if to take a note from the gameplay section, a bit samey. What you've got on your telly right now is a FIFA game from way back in September 2016. That's right, my lovelies, a whole 7 years ago. I ain't here to tell you that there ain't been no improvements, because obviously, yes, there are improvements, but can you really see these massive generational leaps given the time frame that has flown by since? Truth be told, I'd argue that some of the players in FIFA 17 look more real life in their likeness than what we've got here in EAFC 24. As a Spurs fan, I was buzzing to get my legs stuck into my bang average team, but Dyer, he looks a bit off, and Kulusevski, he looks more handsome and sexier than he does in real life. The big one though is Big Ange. I ain't even sure if that's supposed to be him. While Big Ange might be a bit of a lad we'd love to have a pint with, here he looks like a dodgy used car salesman who just tricked your nan into the worst finance deal in history. But I'll give it to him, the presentation is top notch, it's proper slick, the way the on-screen graphics flash up as the game is going on, giving you all the info you need. Weirdly though, I don't seem to be experiencing the swanky match entrances like previous years, and it sort of ruins the immersion if I'm honest. Whilst the majority of the game looks good, I can't help but wonder if we're ever going to see a new artistic direction taken here. Maybe something a bit grittier, something a bit fresher in terms of camera shots as the match goes on, and just something, dare I say it, more interesting. So is it worth ditching your old FIFA games for this? Afraid to say no, not at all. The sound, as always though, is rather brilliant, and a big part of that is the crowd sounds, stadium announcements and the shouts on the pitch. When you're playing EAFC, it's like a beautiful symphony of football. If you've got a decent pair of headphones or a top-notch surround sound setup, it's a real treat for the ears. And let's not forget that fantastic soundtrack, which is as strong as ever. I've muted it here to avoid any copyright trouble, but trust me, it's a banging set list. But here's where I'm a bit disappointed. the commentary. Now, I know the team changed it up in FIFA 22, but the lines, they just ain't being delivered with that pizzazz and flair that I've become accustomed to in previous generations. My hope is that as AI keeps on developing, we'll see this tech featured more in footy games so they can commentate on the play in real time instead of relying on scripted lines. It ain't terrible, mind you, it's just not mind-blowing either. So to wrap it all up then, this is FIFA. It's FIFA 24 with the same little nips and tucks, the same fine tuning and that same old microtransaction bollocks in Ultimate Team, and they want $70 for it. Now don't get me wrong, there's not much wrong here except for my gripes with Ultimate Team, and if you're coming in after a few years away, you're going to have a grand old time. But is it really the rebirth of the franchise? Not a chance, boys and girls. There are no real fresh ideas here, no risks taken, and let's be honest, this game is designed to empty the wallets of the masses, which is why it gets that immediate 3-point deduction from its original 7 score. So the real kicker in all of this is that the only thing impeding the game, as Mr. Wilson claimed, isn't the FIFA license. No, instead it's the bigwigs over at EA who can't seem to discover how to move this limbering franchise forward in any meaningful way. Until next time, my lovelies, Reggie out.